Welcome to Scoreography, an approachable, mostly accessible, and highly enthusiastic celebration of the greatest sport on ice, figure skating. I'm Wendy Buskey, and for anyone who hasn't listened before, I am a lifelong figure skating fan who married my best friend and subsequently converted him into a skating superfan, and now my co-host, Adron Buskey.
That's actually correct. As of the previous ones, you've been like kicking and screaming, but no, I happily transitioned into this world of figure skating.
I tried to give you more credit this time. It's definitely fair.
I appreciate that. It's not like I was fighting the whole time. It was like, no, this is pretty cool. And then I became a convert, and now I love it. And now I obsess over it.
You do. It's true.
Yeah, just a little bit. So we're joining you here in our third episode, and this time we're going to be talking about Skate France.
The Grand Prix of France.
Yeah.
I can't actually say it the full name, so I'm just going with the Grand Prix of France.
Yeah, we'll definitely mangle it if we try to do that too specifically.
And I want to be respectful, so it's better that I don't.
Right. But before we dive into the Skate France stuff, and to be fair, we had some limitations in what we were able to see with it. So we're really going to be talking about the top spot people in it and kind of a little bit of the competition in general. But a few things beforehand. First off, just want to say a shout out to @SteffiDumDum on Twitter, who sent us a really nice message just saying, Scoreography, so happy to find your podcast. There is definitely a lack of skating media right now, so thank you for putting your content out there. You definitely have a new fan. Stephanie, thank you so much for reaching out to us and supporting us here when we're very early in the stages of launching this show. It is really, really appreciated. Thank you.
It is so fun to hear from a fellow skating fan and to know that, the encouragement is appreciated. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for listening and thank you for supporting the show. Also, before we dig into Skate France, the other piece of news that was really exciting this past week was that Jason Brown will be officially competing in the U.S. Nationals. Whenever that comes around.
San Jose, January. And I am here for it. I want it right now.
I think if you're a skating novice, this is a thing that can be a little bit difficult to understand because you have not seen Jason Brown on the Grand Prix or in the Challenger Series or anything like that right now. He has not been competing. He's been doing
shows, training, coaching, choreography. I think he's been dabbling.
Yeah, he's been a correspondent kind of, or like,
oh yeah.
Basically, Jason Brown is like the American figure skating's best ambassador.
Oh, for sure.
And ever since last year in the Olympics and Worlds and everything, he has been much more been a showman than necessarily a competitive skater. So it can seem weird, I think, for a lot of people to be like, okay, here's a guy who's not competing, as far as we know, at all in any of the major events, and he's just going to walk right into the nationals. But he can do that for specific reasons.
Right. I mean, he was on the Olympic national team. He came in, I want to say, fourth. Am I right about that at nationals?
He came in fourth at nationals last year and then was selected for the Olympic team over Ilya Malinin in that moment because Jason had tons of international experience.
Correct.
And Malinin had very, very little.
Right. So between his placement at U.S. nationals, his established resume of skating, his Grand Prix performance last year, which was very strong, his international placement at Worlds, it basically meant that the U.S. nationals would be fools to not just say, sure, come on in. Based on their own rules and regulations, that's totally within reason for this year. If he had decided in a few years, say like in 2024, that he wanted to do that, he would have to re-earn his spot. But because he's just off of his Olympic Games and his great performance last year at Worlds, it's totally within reason for them to just say, okay, you get a bye and you're here.
Yeah, so it's not like, I don't know, like baseball where you have to go all the way through from the beginning and wild card and playoffs and whatever to make it into that, those final games. In this one, he basically earned that spot last year. And I got to guess it's largely because right now the U.S. men's field does not look very deep. I mean,
not at the moment.
I mean, you have the rock star in Ilya Malinin and that host of quads and that quad axle. And there's a lot of other good men, but nobody right now that looks like they're going to be really competitive against the Shoma Unos and some of the other guys that are out there in the field.
Yeah, it's definitely the past few weeks of watching the men's field. There's a lot of there's the Kalmuras who are coming on strong saying, by the way, I'm here and you're going to pay attention to me, which is wonderful to see. But in the U.S., you have Ilya Malinin, who's the new superstar on the rise. But after him, you have people like Camden Pukkanen, who I adore. And I think he's a great talent. But his performance at Skate Canada was rough. And,
it was underwhelming. Yeah.
Right. And he was open about that. He knew it. And there's no reason he couldn't make another world team. He was in the top 6 last year. I mean, not even last year, in March at the World Championships. So he's definitely a threat. But Jason Brown coming back in, he's established. He's beloved. International judges love him. And more than anything, my guess is that, and please, this is conjecture, so forgive me, the U.S. needs to maintain 3 men going to Worlds next year. And right now, the team that we could send beyond, even if Malinin wins a medal, we're golden at the World Championships. We'll get 3 men in 2023.
So I want to come in the middle of this, because I think that if a person is not really well informed in this can be really confusing.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, there are rules around how many people can represent a specific country at a World Championships. And really, in an ideal situation, the top 3 countries, so if you're 3 different countries win the top 3 medals, each one of those countries gets 3
slots.
Three slots in the following year's World Championships. If you don't make the podium, basically the placement of your men or women or pairs or dance teams have to add up to a specific number in order to qualify potentially to get 3 placements. And I'm not doing a great job of explaining this, so I recommend looking at like the ISU. They actually have a lot of resources that can kind of explain this.
It's deep and a little hard to penetrate it, but it's all there.
But essentially, long story short, you want at least 2 of your top men, if not all 3 in the top 10 in the World Championships, if you want a very good shot of keeping 3 men or 3 women or 3 pairs or 3 dance. If you don't do that, you lose a spot. So for a long time, the U.S. has kind of struggled with this because we haven't had consistent full teams going to the World Championships. Right now, we have that happening. So last year at Worlds, we had a situation where the U.S. performed so well that we have now a full slate of, in each category, 3 team members going and participating in the World Championships. If we don't perform as well this year, we will lose slots. So that is my guess as to why they wanted Jason Brown to come back. Not saying that he also didn't just have the like, hey, I'm not ready to retire yet. But I would not be surprised if the U.S. Figure Skating Association also was knocking on his door like, hey, we don't have Nathan Chen. We don't have Vincent Zhou. You haven't made up your mind yet, and we'd really like to see you. And I mean, God, everybody wants to see Jason Brown skate. He's the best.
Yeah. All of this is to say, basically, that how you perform at Worlds any given year is really important because it impacts the next year and how many of your skaters you can send. That's why you see small countries that don't have a deep field of competitors only get to send like 1 person to Worlds.
Right. And you have to earn that spot.
Right. Because there's only so many competitive spots. And so for us, if we want to maintain the ability to have more podium threats, more people that can place in the top 10 and stuff like that, we have to do that consistently year over year. And our best chance right now in order to do that at Worlds is Jason Brown.
100%.
But anyway, that's off in the future. So let's talk about Skate France. Last week, we talked a little bit about the fact that we've been watching things on Peacock. For Skate France, we just couldn't watch it on the schedule with Peacock. And because there's no replays, we had to do the workaround, the get a VPN, watch it through the ISU feeds.
Which is messy, but at least it gives you flexibility.
Right. We were able to pull the stuff up on YouTube and watch the things that they uploaded there. I don't want to get really deep in. Last week, we really talked a lot about like the Peacock situation. I think we can wait for another time as we get used to doing the ISU thing with it. But the upshot of it is that we were able to watch most of the podium level and a few other people in a lot of the events. And outside that, I can't really say a whole lot about the event. We just weren't privy to much of it other than just the competition. Which
unfortunately leads to a little bit of, I mean, if I'm just being honest, other than the ladies and 1 team in the ice dance, I felt like it was a bit underwhelming.
Yeah.
Like the field didn't feel terribly deep. It wasn't as exciting as Skate America. And for all that the falls that we saw in the men's competition at Skate Canada. Overall, it was still a really interesting competition. This one was fine.
I think watching it the way we did, where we basically we saw the competitions and the ICU feed has a single guy doing commentary. It's very, very bare bones. He basically tells you what the jump is. It's not like when you see it on NBC and you have like running commentary from 3 people the whole time.
No.
It's very, very thin and also kind of badly mastered, because a lot of times you couldn't hear
the sound is weird. He has a lovely Irish accent though, so it's pleasant. He seems amiable, and overall it wasn't I wasn't offended by it, but it was definitely a different experience, that's for sure.
Right. Again, seeing it that way, it just doesn't feel like you're quite there in the same way.
Right.
In fact, it's even filmed in such a way that it feels like archival footage. It's got this.
It does. It just looks like film more than anything.
But in any event, we did get to watch a lot of the competitive people. So I mean, let's just jump in and start talking about the men's event then.
The men's, I think we should just probably hit on the top 2 because I felt like they were the ones that stood out the most. So second place was Soto Yamamoto, another Japanese competitor that's coming on strong and trying to make a name for himself. And while I really appreciated a lot of the drama that he brought to it, I felt like he had, especially in the short program, lots of emotion, his own very distinct style. Again, I love the Japanese field of men because none of them skate the same. They all have their own distinct styles about them, their own identity, and it's just fun to watch. But I will say he did a lot of jump telegraphing, which for layman's terms means you always knew when he was going into a jump because it was a long lead up and it just looked like he was stalking the jump a little bit. The choreography didn't really work well with the jumps from my opinion. I just felt a little bit too much of that. Like, no, I do some arm movements and then I jump.
A definite pet peeve of mine is when you see somebody set up a jump and like cross the entire ice going into it. And I definitely understand, especially at junior level and sometimes at these really, really difficult jumps, why that happens. But yeah, that telegraphing is very boring to watch, and it feels unseasoned. It feels incomplete.
That said, I think he has lovely position, great spins. Overall, it's more just watching somebody who just has a lot of refinement to do. Like his axle technique, as a longtime viewer, I was just like, oh. Like, just didn't look good. But I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he has plenty of room to grow. And in some ways, I feel like it's more the fault of the choreography than him.
Yeah, certainly the short program was much better than the free skate. The choreography
far tighter.
Yeah, the choreography really suited him. And just, I don't know, the drama that he brought to that was really striking. Versus the free program, where it really felt like it fizzled as the program went on.
Yeah. But the champion of Grand Prix France was Adam Siao Him Fa. I remember him from the Olympics, and you may as well, because he was a Jedi on ice. And while that might be cheesy to do a Star Wars program, somehow he made it really cool.
It actually was dope, yeah.
I really enjoyed him at Skate France. Like, he's frankly the only programs that I really remember. His choreography was really fascinating and very different. Like, he is definitely an artist with a capital A, down to the fact that his short program and his long program are thematically connected.
That was so exciting for me to learn, because I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do that their storytelling from one piece to the next were connected and really a joined piece. Like, to me, that is really an artistic statement from him. And I think between just the artistic point of view that displays and the high quality free skate that he delivered.
Well, especially like my brain goes to, he had a quad sal in the middle of the quad salchow. Let me be specific. A quad salchow in the middle of the program that I felt like changed the tone of the whole program. Like it was good front to back, but once he did that jump, there was some kind of energy boost that he got, and I don't know, something changed. And from that point on, he was so magnetic, and it was really cool to see. I was not expecting that necessarily, in the sense that I don't know that you'd see his name and think, oh, he's a contender for a medal this year in the Grand Prix or Worlds. And he may not be. I mean, we look at the depth of field just from Japan and Korea alone and Malonen. But that said, I think it was a great showing and definitely a, by the way, I'm still here kind of wave in the air.
I mean, also worth noting, he's in front of his hometown crowd.
And man, he made the most of it. I loved that.
Yes.
It's always fun to see a hometown person really kill it in front of their hometown crowd. And it was Gilles and Poirier in Canada last week at Skate Canada, like just coming out and destroying the ice dance competition.
Let's talk about pairs.
Okay.
So with the pairs teams, Hocke and Kunkel, the German team, I mean, they were pretty sloppy in this, but they did have some nice elements, and there was some pretty cool stuff going on in that program.
I'll admit, I wasn't really familiar with them before watching them. And yeah, I agree. They had their long program far better than the short. The short was rough. I don't know if I would remember it today. Like, honestly, I don't know how much of the program I even remember a day later, which is not the best feeling whenever you come out of a skate. However, I do remember some of their lifts being really lovely. They had some nice elements. I just want them to do something that makes them stand out because I don't remember them that much, honestly.
And there was the married couple, and hopefully I get this right.
Kovalev and Kovalev.
Kovalev and Kovalev. It sounds like they should be a buddy movie from the 1980s, like Simon and Simon or something like that. They actually, I thought they were pretty striking. When they first got going, I was pretty unsure of them. And there's definitely some issues with I think the free skate and
I think it was the short.
Was
the
it the short?
Didn't really do much for me. I mean, they're a French team, again, skating in front of hometown crowd, but they scored personal bests by a lot.
Yeah.
I thought their long program was actually really well done. Again, really interesting lifts. Maybe it was just the energy of being at home. They just seemed to rise to the occasion in the long program, especially the last minute of their choreography sequence. They sold it really well. So for a team, again, that I wasn't terribly familiar with prior to watching this competition, I actually felt like they made a statement and said, okay, we might not be top of the world, but they showed up.
The team that won pairs is a team that we talked about in our first episode because we saw them at Skate America and they were brilliant at Skate America. They won Skate France, but it was a decidedly inferior display from what we saw at Skate America.
I mean, Diana Stelatto-Dudek and
Maxime Duchamps.
Thank you. I was looking for his first name.
Yeah,
they're short, pretty rough. You could even see in the triple twist that it just felt like it was lovely, but a little short. Not short in rotation, but just didn't go. The height wasn't there. And Maxime I remember smiling kind of in this like, well, we made it through that type of face. But it really felt like Deanna was struggling with her throws.
Yeah, she took a heck of a tumble in that short program, like a full ass overhead, like tumble. She might have even hit the boards or something. I can only laugh
because she wasn't hurt, because that was scary.
She seemed like she was okay, but yeah, it was, I mean, she popped right up. I mean, she's a trooper, she's a pro.
And man, that woman is fierce. And even watching them having, two not their best programs. I mean, they still won. The quality of their skating is so high. They're definitely in a league of their own in this particular competition.
Yes.
That's why they won.
They
even
were
with
well
mistakes.
Ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. They shine so brightly. I am really excited to see them continue to grow with these programs throughout the season. I really think they're a world medal threat for sure. Right now, between the three top teams that we've seen, I think they're right up there. So, Alexa and Brandon from the US and Skate America did not have clean programs either, and they won. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think they didn't glow as much as they did because at Skate America, they blew me away. I was so excited about that performance. Everybody has an off day or an off competition. They still managed to win, but you could tell they were not satisfied with her performance. And so I expect our next time we see them, I'm not sure what that'll be because they've done their 2 Grand Prix performances.
They absolutely, by winning one and coming in second at Skate America, they should be in the Grand Prix final. Yeah,
we should definitely see them there. So, but yeah, really looking forward to that. Moving on to dance. Really, there's only a couple of groups I want to talk about here because I do want to hit on the American team. They're a young team. Pate and Bye, I have not seen them before, or at least I don't remember seeing them before. They seem like a very young pair. I will say the short program, I did not like at all. I didn't like the music. I didn't like the choreography. I didn't like the performance. I was really, really put off by that whole thing. but their free skate, which was like an Irish dance, river dance, suited them really well. They were all of a sudden they were super charming and charismatic and confident on the ice, and it was like a completely different team.
It was very night and day. Like their short and their long felt like two different teams. And I do feel they are a young team. They're growing. You give them time. I didn't see anything that made me say, wow. But at the same time, I loved their vibrance. I think they're highly charismatic. Like they have a charm on the ice, especially in the long program. You really felt that. I'm curious to see where they take it. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I agree. I haven't seen that much of them. I've seen them in a few, like I believe they did an on ice perspectives one that I watched.
Yeah.
But I think they have a lot of potential. There's not a lot of refinement there. But the river dance program was very fun. And particularly she had a wonderful effervescent kind of quality out there. So I'm hopeful, but not in this particular competition.
And they're a young team. We've often seen that ice dance is the category where people actually get better with age rather than kind of aging out.
And it's also a slow roll.
Yeah, right. It's a slow development. So it's a long game in ice dance for sure. But on the flip side of it, I gotta say that the Italian pair of I think it's
Guitard and Fabbri.
Yeah, Guitard and Fabbri. We saw them at the Olympics.
They came in, I want to say, 5th at the Olympics.
Yeah, and they were very, very solid, but I wasn't really particularly taken with their performances. I think mostly what
beautiful technical, not my favorite artistic, but really strong.
Really, really strong. And I just remember my takeaway with it was that the guy had kind of a hair helmet that made it look like he was walking out of a Big Bopper film from like the 60s or something.
Frankie Avalon moment.
Exactly. And that was what stuck out in my head. So when they showed up here, I was like, oh yeah, I remember them. They were definitely a threat at the Olympics, but I wasn't too taken with them before. But again, one of these groups that has come out this season and feels totally different. They were spectacular.
Oh yeah. Top to bottom, front to back, short program and free. Holy cow. The rhythm dance was energetic and vibrant and interesting, and they both sold it so well. And with Latin dance, we've definitely seen some fails.
Yeah, a lot
this season, and they didn't fail. They absolutely killed it. Their free dance was just mesmerizing. They had gorgeous lifts, amazing speed. It just made you feel like, okay, they are absolutely already making their case for being not only a threat for the podium at Worlds, but Chak and Bates have to watch their back. Like, this was a strong performance from them.
Yes, I think they really came out and said, look, you will pay attention to us this season. We are definitely in the running. They did some lifts and some transitions in there, that some things that I feel like we just haven't seen since like Canada's Tessa Virtue and Scott Muir. Like, they're explosive and sexy and so passionately connected routines that were always so captivating. Some of the stuff that Guitard and Fabbri did felt like that. Like, it felt like they were doing...
That's a big compliment.
It is. And obviously not quite to that, Tessa and Scott kind of level, but still it had that excitement. It had that connection. It had that way of really pulling in the audience. I mean, you could tell they had the French audience like in their hands, and it was just such a huge reaction to it.
And I will say, like, them, and having gone back and watched Skate Canada with Gillis and Poirier, to bring them up again, we keep saying over and over again in every competition, we're watching for the people that see the opportunity. Like, this is a whole new quad. Like, we're going into a new Olympic lead up of 4 years. So people need to start making names for themselves and taking a stand and saying, hey, you're going to pay attention to me now. And while I am a Chak and Bates super fan, and I desperately want to see them win a world title, it's like they've got some major competition in both of those teams. And to your point about the magnetism of the Italians, I didn't see that before from them. Like, I saw beautiful technical skating that was really, it didn't feel like it wasn't that they weren't connected. I just didn't feel any, romantic connection. And they're a married couple, so it's kind of surprising. But this time it's all there. Yeah. They brought it all. And with that, I don't know, I really saw them throw it down and just say, like, beat that.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
I feel like this is a case where you see a pair who have, or an ice dance team who have now just gotten the right choreography, the right music, the right vibe, and they have come alive on the ice with it. And it is so good. I was really, really taken with those performances. So, and again, we're still pretty early in the season. So
Yeah.
as we say this in November and, January.
There's 3 more
Grand Prix
other than the Grand Prix final. So yeah, I mean, we're halfway through the preseason, essentially. And I shouldn't even say it that way, but you know what I mean? It's like halfway through the Grand Prix, leading into nationals, leading into worlds. So it's still relatively early.
So seeing some of these spectacular performances at this stage in the game is really, really promising.
With that, we should talk about the ladies, because I thought that was easily the highlight of the whole competition.
Oh, yes. I mean, the ladies competition had a lot of notable skaters in it, and a lot of really, really nice performances, and just a bunch of skaters that I was aware of, but like had not seen a lot of stuff from, that I feel like have really kind of set themselves up to be exciting skaters to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Like, we saw her at Skate America, but I'll start with Haein Lee. And I feel like she didn't stay on her feet the whole time, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, I really feel like she's coming into her own as an artist. Beautiful choreography, but man, do I wish she would not have used Phantom of the Opera. Again, if you're a skating fan, you know the problem of, oh, there's that song again, and there's that song again. And this season has been absolutely the same case. And this is a beautiful skater that really can sell a program and keeps getting better. And while this wasn't necessarily her best competition, I loved her footwork sequence. I feel like she's getting better as a spinner. There's all these wonderful qualities. But whenever you have that backing track of the same masquerade, like, I don't want to hear it again.
Yeah, this is a space where I find myself as the one place where I'm like an anti Johnny Weir. If you watch Johnny's stuff, watch his commentary, you'll know, like, Tara like teases him a lot because he likes classical stuff and symphony and Broadway type of things, and he doesn't like rock music and doesn't necessarily respond well to pop and EDM unless it's very specific kinds of things. And
unless it's in show, like if it's a show program, then he's into it.
Sure, but yeah, in competition, he tends to be a little bit more. For all that he is not traditional in so many ways, he does lean into that sort of classic traditional style. I love it when somebody comes out and does a pop song or does something to like Muse, or like something, that has a little bit more rock, or an EDM track, or something that mixes genres. Like, I am so here for that. Put more K-pop on the, on the ice, that kind of thing. For me, there's nothing more boring than having the third person in a competition skating to Moulin Rouge, or to another person with a West Side Story, routine. I'm like, there is a world full of music, of extraordinary songs that can be used in this context. Why do the same damn thing over and over and over again? Agreed.
Speaking of up and coming talent, though, I'm going to shift gears to people we haven't heard of that much. And Rion Sumiyoshi, I had not seen before. She's a young Japanese skater. I thought she had amazing spins. Her speed was amazing. Highly, highly technically proficient, but definitely needs some refinement on the component scores, the choreography, holding her moves, extension. I referred to her in conversation as a raw diamond. I feel like she's, to me at least, mostly unknown. I'm sure to deeper people that are watching the juniors and such, more probably know her very well. But to me, it was one of my first time seeing her, and I was like, okay, I can see all the potential, but I want to see the refinement.
Yeah. I think she cuts a really striking figure on the ice. She has this very kind of elongated physicality that I think makes her look different from a lot of her peers in, the women's competition right now. I mean, her jumps, her speed. I mean, she's really
very
fast. Yeah, definitely striking. Definitely one to watch.
For sure. The silver medalist at the competition, Yelim Kim, I've been excited to see all season. Like, I've been waiting for Yelim Kim because I really liked what I saw from her last year. This is a deep cut, so if you're not over a certain age, you probably won't know who the heck I'm talking about. But for some reason, One of my first favorite skaters as a kid was a woman named Karen Kadavi. And Yelim Kim reminds me of Karen Kadavi. It's this elegant, beautiful lines, expressive skating that just feels very much like what I've been missing in women's skating a lot. She feels unique to me. Maybe it's just me just particularly having a bias because she reminds me of someone else's style. But I think she's very, very talented. And I was really excited to see. I felt like she'd evolved so much just in like 6 to 8 months since the last competitions. There was definitely some mistakes on the jumps, but man, her transitions and the fluidity and I was really taken with her.
Oh yeah, I thought there were some really good performances there with her. I think she was a little underscored. I think they
yes, I think the components were underscored, but I'm also accepting my own bias that I just really like her style.
Yeah, well, I don't have any idea who Karen Kadavi is, and every time you say that name, I feel like that should be a sitcom character because that name feels so kind of innately silly to me.
Hi, I'm Karen Kadavi.
Exactly, it should be like on that 70s
amazing.
show or something. I do think that when it was all said and done with Yelim Kim, I thought that her component scores, I think she was a little disrespected, to be honest, there, because I did really like what she did. But I will make no arguments against who ended up on the top of the podium because, and this will be both of our picks of this competition as far 100%. As a best performance. We're talking about Loena Hendrickx from Belgium.
She's just spectacular. And I love seeing this woman come out and really lay it down in a way that tells me that she is showing up saying, hello, world. I was a silver medalist at Worlds last year. It was not a fluke. I'm showing up again. And pay attention. It's really wonderful to see her fight. She looks even more fit this year. She's gained speed somehow. Her short was clean and lovely, but I could feel a little bit of her nerves. But my God, her long program was just a stunner. Like, yeah, absolutely just astonishing. Phenomenal.
So Loena is somebody who we discovered last season, I think either during the European competitions or Four Continents. I can't remember which one was the first time we saw her.
She wasn't at Four Continents last year. She was at Europeans is where we saw her.
Oh, okay. And we were immediately like, I don't know who this is, but she is so awesome on ice. She has that maturity in her skating. She has a fierceness, like a hunger on the ice. She's just a striking figure. And so when we got to Worlds and seeing her really show up and really turn out there, we were so excited because it was kind of like, I think one of the really fun things about skating is finding a new fave. It's kind of like when you hear a new song from a band and you're like, oh shit, that band slaps. Now I have this new group to stan or whatever. And you're like, Adrian, you're 45. Why do you talk like that? But it's that kind of thing when you see something that you really enjoy and you're like, oh my gosh, that really jazzed me up, or that made me feel something, or that made me really excited. Like,
it was watching Rico Miura and Chiara last week at Skate Canada, our new favorite Japanese pair of all time, and maybe pair of all time, period. You see them and you just get so excited because you're like, oh, I'm in love with you as skaters, not in a weird way. I just want the world for you. And watching Loena Hendrickx come out there this week and just devastate, it made me want to root for her. It made me want her to be up there with Kaori Sakamoto and like battling it out and Rinka. It's just, there's so many interesting women coming through this season, and Loena is definitely in the mix and will be a medal threat at Worlds.
Something that I love to see as a fan of this sport, a fan of international competition, and a fan of sports that bring people together rather than tribalize them and make them have to choose sides like, a lot of sports tend to do. The thing I love, like, following stuff on like Instagram with a lot of the different skaters, is seeing when the international groups are brought together and get to spend time together. So over the break between last season and the Olympics and Worlds and stuff and the start of this one, there were a number of touring shows in Japan. We also had like Stars on Ice here in the States, but Japan is just a whole nother level. Like skating is so popular
It
there.
is, and I'm so jealous.
Yes, like if anybody from Japanese fandom is listening, we adore you, we respect you, and we are jealous of you because
All three, absolutely, all the time.
everything that you guys have going on over there, like for skating, is awesome. But what was so cool to see was that you see some of the American skaters and, that go over there, and particularly fronted by Jason Brown, because he's made such a great relationship with the Japanese skaters. But a whole bunch of our people went over and did shows with them, and they got some of the other international skaters as well. So you had like Daniel Grassel from Italy was there on some of the shows. You had one of our faves, Katarina Kurkova from Poland was there, but they had Loena Hendrickx in the mix too. And it was so much fun to just go through their Instagrams and see these groups of people traveling together, having fun, wowing audiences, being playful and goofy. And, you have the Japanese squad who just seemed like they couldn't be a nicer group of people, and all of them together. And that's the stuff that I really wish that American skating would actually just show people how much this sport brings people together across the globe, how many friendships are made of it. Yes, the competition is great, but I think what's more exciting is just the fun of seeing those people united that way.
Well, and I think it's both. That's one of the reasons. And I mean, I feel like we might as well just dedicate this entire episode to the wonder that is Jason Brown. But he has brought such a sense of community anywhere he's gone. Like, that's why he is kind of the United States ambassador to figure skating at this point, or at least he should be. It's that sense of, hey, I'm here, but there's a whole world out there of competitors and people that all love the same thing that I love. Let's enjoy it together. And I just love the fact that people like him exist in this sport. And I feel like the US needs more Jason Browns desperately. Or they just need to hire him to manage that and make it happen, because I think he could. He just has a way of making you excited, making you feel like you care about it again. And it's something that the US had for a while with skating, but unfortunately a lot of it was sort of generated by not the best things. Like, skating used to command 20 to 30,000 people in a stadium, which is a bizarre thing to think about right now, but it was a popular sport in the 90s and early 2000s, really. Now it's a struggle. So more Jason Browns, please. More US skating, pushing the camaraderie and the familiarity, and it's an incredibly complicated, difficult, challenging, expensive sport to be a part of, but make it more accessible. Find ways to bring community to it, because you need people to remember that these are people and you should connect with them. I will also give credit to people like Amber Glenn and her
huge TikTok.
It's a different type of connection, but she has built a following based on the fact that she is out there doing this thing that's very cool and bringing visibility to the sport. So I am old person who don't know TikTok very well, but I respect what she's doing. But from my perspective, I see Jason Brown out there just basically being the ambassador. And I'm just like, you have the person, let him lead you.
Yes. I mean, I 100% agree. I do want to hit two other of the women from I didn't want to hit the women. I went to hit on the performances of the women.
That was dicey.
Yes, I was like, okay, I don't need that as a soundbite. But one is the American Audrey Shin, who we have seen in past competitions before. But I've always noticed that she was somebody who had what feels like the beginning of star power, but I had not yet seen her elevated to a level that I thought she was a competitive. I think she dropped in fourth or fifth.
I think it was fifth where she landed at the end.
But there were some really nice programs. She's very, very musical. And there was a really, really nice triple Lutz, triple toe in the beginning of one of her programs that was super sharp. She's got a thing on the ice. Her skating needs to match that thing, but the thing is there.
Yeah,
and
she has a nice it factor. It's happening. It's just, can she materialize the technical to back it up? But I think she definitely has it. And it's It's the thing that we talked about a while ago with people like Isabella Vito. It's she has an identity on ice. You know it immediately. And I feel like Audrey Shin also has that. So I want to see more from her. I want to see more than just all of the weight of U.S. ladies figure skating on one human's shoulders. So Audrey Shin, let's pay attention to her.
Yeah. And then there was Mana Kawabe, who her short program was
spectacular.
To Billie Eilish, and was really, really strong. We've seen some other Billie Eilish programs this season, but her short was great. Her long, I think for her, it felt pretty disastrous because I think you could...
It sadly fell apart.
Yeah.
And this is not a knock against her because I really like Mana Kawabe and I want to see strong performances out of her because I think she's a lovely skater.
Yeah.
But I also found it kind of amusing that her short program was Billie Eilish and kind of a similar medley to what Chalk and Bates did last year.
Yep.
And then her long program was the like the Hubble and Donahue program.
Oh, was that Hubble and
Donahue? It was Hubble and Donahue's long program.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it's like she watched the ice dance competition last year at the Olympics and went, that song and that song.
Yeah. To be fair, the song that I don't know the name of, the version that she used was a lot more intense.
It was
kind of yelly.
And I appreciated it was a different arrangement for sure. It was just at this competition, I just kept noticing so much we're in that same groove of like even our men's champion, Adam, used the same, is it Wood Kid? It's a piece of music he closed with that's a very, very popular skater song. And it's that feeling of, okay, this is a beautiful program. The choreography is lovely. There's other songs.
Yeah.
There's a world of music out there. Please use something else.
That was something, and I'm trying to think of who this was offhand, so I'm sure you'll know when I say it, but there was it was either pairs or dance, where their performance was to one of the dancers' like favorite song, and you felt it.
It was our Japanese favorites from Skate Canada.
Oh, from Skate Canada, that's correct. Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because we were so after we got done watching Skate France, and some really great performances, including the last thing we watched was like Loena Hendrickx, which was dynamite. But I just immediately went back into the feed and then replayed the Japanese pair from...
Yeah, so like Mira and Kiara, that was what I had read this week, that the long program music selection was chosen because it was her favorite song. I agree with you. You 100% feel it. And it's not a song I've heard someone skate to before. It's lovely to see. It's like, please pick different things. There's so many options. Try something else. And I get it. There is a tradition to skating. Like most female skaters at some point or another will do their version of Carmen. Like it's gonna happen. And it's kind of infuriating. I'm like, it's...
one of my all-time favorite skaters is Ashley Wagner, and she will defend people skating to Carmen all the time. In fact, she mentions it a lot, like on Instagram. And it's the one place where I want to be like, Ashley Wagner, I adore you as a skater and a personality, but oh my God, stop with the frickin' Carmen. I'm sure a lot of other people love it. I don't want it. Give me something fresh.
Yeah. That said, I can't even remember who it was, but somebody was skating to like Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 that I've heard so many people skate to over the years, and I still like it. So, but I don't know, that one doesn't feel as overused. I'm like, don't stop using all the same pieces. Just maybe spread it out a little bit.
There was a number of skaters at this competition that used really understated classical pieces that I felt like got completely swallowed in an arena. I understand that the lure of the classical, style and music pieces, but they just felt too subtle to work in front of a big crowd, or maybe too subtle for a not quite experienced enough, not quite developed enough artist to deliver.
That's often the case. Like seeing people skate to like super powerful pieces that are at a junior level, it's like, no, that's the fault of a choreographer and a coach not realizing your skater can't match the energy of this music yet, and you've chosen poorly with your music. I think that's an inevitable.
In this first 3 Grand Prix events, one thing that has kind of concerned me is that there's been a few skaters that I actually like quite a lot who have had programs that I think kind of suck. And it's not unheard of for somebody to throw away a whole program and either go back to one from a previous season or do something different.
Nathan Chen did that last season because he knew it was an Olympic year and program wasn't working. He went back to the well and went
Rocket Man.
And they made a correct choice.
Yep. And you saw that. I think there was one year Chalk and Bakes did that as well, where they tossed a new program, went back to Snake Charmer. Yeah, I mean, it happens from time to time. I mean, I don't think anybody likes seeing a program repeat season to season, except for like Jason Brown's Centerman, where you're like,
you can just do that forever and I'm going to be happy.
Right.
But he can't do that at Nationals this year. I'm so intrigued to see what he brings to Nationals this year. And as much as I love Centerman, he can't do it.
Yeah, you can't do it a third year in a row for all this stuff. So,
but it's so good.
But yeah, there's definitely a few where I'd be like, okay, you're great, but please dump this program and get something that works for you. Also, there's, a lot of tweaking goes on between competitions.
Absolutely. That's a lot of what the Grand Prix is about. If they can come out and say, okay, this was my short program, but it failed, and you scrap it, you move on. And Chalk and Bates did that last year with their original rhythm dance for the Olympic year. They scrapped it after the first Grand Prix and got their Billie Eilish program that worked way better.
Way better, and was like a really, really nice program.
Yep.
So yeah, so I'm hoping we'll see some stuff tighten up and make some improvements. But next week, then we get Grand Prix of Great Britain. We're going to see Brady Tennell there. Full disclosure, my least favorite American skater.
I know you're not excited, but I am intrigued for two reasons. One, she's had a rough go and has had a lingering injury that has obviously took her out of the Olympic contention altogether. But it really just has been a long time since you've seen Brady. So it's
been a while because she was completely out of the last year's Olympic competition because of those injuries
for the whole season. And I'm just curious. I'm really genuinely curious, and I want the best for her. I hope it goes well. But Isabel Levito will also be there too. So a deep field. The ladies' field in general this season is pretty deep. So it's not going to be a Brady Tennell show by any stretch. Mostly, she's just the one I'm the most curious to see what happens with. But we'll also get to see Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson again, which on home ice should be a good time. So I don't know. I think it'll be a fun competition. Yeah,
and also I want to just put an asterisk on that thing to say that I have nothing against Brady Tennell as a person. So don't think that I'm a hater when it comes to something like that. Brady is just, field of people of, you have some people that just work for you and other ones that don't. I have just never liked her style. I have never enjoyed her as a skater. Okay. I recognize that she's very, very good.
She's very good. But that's the thing. And it's one of the things I actually love about skating. It's thinking of the fan use, like the people that are obsessed with Yuzuru Hanyu. I love Yuzuru Hanyu. I think that man is one of, if not the best, all-around men's skater ever. Like he's just magic on ice. He moves like nobody else. However, and gosh, I'm afraid to even say this out loud because I'm afraid. I don't see why you would be angry with Ilya Malinin for doing the quad axel whenever Yuzuru had said he wanted to. He tried. He made the attempts. It didn't work. Ilya Malinin came out and did it. It's not an offensive thing.
It's sports. It's competition.
Sports.
That's how it works.
And while, yes, I was sitting right there on the edge of my seat, wanting so badly for Yuzuru to do it at the Olympics, I sat there holding my breath like, he's got to do it. He's got to do it. He's got to do it. I wanted it just as badly. But when he didn't, and then he retired, it's like, okay, somebody else has to. So it's a strange thing. But coming back around, we all have our favorites. We all get emotionally attached. Skating, I don't know, makes that part easy.
Yes.
Like it was my obsession with Brian Boitano as a child and just wanting nothing more for him to win everything and decimate Brian Orser. No offense to Brian Orser, I now love him. But I was
Battle
a kid.
of the Bryans.
Battle of the Bryans was a thing, man. It's the same, it's a sport. You're supposed to you have your favorites.
Yeah.
It's what it's all about.
Absolutely. So we'll look forward to Grand Prix of Great Britain and seeing what happens with all of that. In Sheffield. Okay.
Sheffield.
Yeah, nice and easy to say. We know where that's at. Not Skate France was in Angers. I'm sure it was like Angers or something like that, but like it was just like it's the angry city of or
You're
was
pissing off anyone in France who is listening right now.
I'm very sorry. I'm very, very sorry. Or was that like the sponsor? I don't even know. I
have no idea.
I can actually even read a lot of French, but I just couldn't pick up on the signs for it. So,
well, if you're still here and listening, please listen more, hang out with us online. And Adrian's going to tell you about all the places because I'm not as good at it as
so
he is.
Scoreography as a podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If you are listening / watching this, except there's nothing to watch on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe because that's what you're supposed to do here. And that helps us out a lot as you stay connected to it. Otherwise, you can subscribe in any of those other places. We are on Twitter and Instagram as @Scoreography. So you can keep up with us there. Or all of the stuff, the links to subscribe, the every episode when it comes out, and a little bit more about the show and us is all available at scoreography.show.
See, I told you he was way better at that than I am.
I've had a lot of experience.
You have.
So until next time, I'm Adron Busky.
I'm Wendy Busky.
Thank you for listening to Scoreography.
Bye.